No.
All
Don't have
right.
nothing else.
Common.
Nope.
All right. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Um, I want to welcome everybody to the Late Frame Podcast. If you're joining us, we have in the house the man, the myth, and the legend. You know, um, Mr. Brian Gendra, the godfather of airbags. I would consider, because he is the guy that did it before I was even born. So, all right, cool. Sounded better.
Not really, but we'll make it work.
Okay, cool. Make it work. That's all that matters.
Do that.
So, yeah, man. So, like, I want to thank you for coming on and
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
understand, man, that this is like, I want to thank you for coming on, man, because you're the guy that started it all before, you know, like before even any of us were even thinking of stuff like that. Like, what got you to like, like, what made you want to do it? Like, what were you thinking? Like, not in like, what were you thinking, but you know what I mean? Like, what made you be like, all right, cool, let's stick an airbag in the truck.
Well, it's kind of a
How did
weird
that concept
story.
happen?
It happened by accident, pretty much. So, at the time, I was doing a lot of body modifications, like suicide doors, convertibles, all that stuff. And I had just started doing like a lot of air shocks, and I had done some hydros and stuff like that for people. And the air shocks they barely would lift it up. It was not, a great way.
What up,
It
Brandon?
got you by,
Oh,
you
okay.
know. Yeah.
Uh,
So people were doing air shocks and stuff like that, and then, but they didn't really work very well. So I just happened to be at a spring shop one day, where they do, like rebuilding leaf springs and
yeah.
stuff like that, and there was an airbag laying on the ground. He was working on a motorhome, and it was just the top of it was dented, and I knew the guy well, and I was just asking him, what is that thing? And he was telling me it's an airbag for the rear suspension leveling. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, how much weight does it hold? Because, I was used to the little, like, the little sleeve bags that they use in
Yeah.
the backs, and you
Yeah.
can't really do much with those. And he's like, oh, dude, this thing holds like 2,500 pounds by itself. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, oh my God, like, I could use that on a truck and lift it. And he goes, yeah, I guess, And so basically it kind of happened that way. I asked him, where to get one. And he gave me that one because he said he was replacing it because it was dented on the top. And so anyway, he gave it to me, but it was a 224C. It was just big, it was like freaking
Oh,
8-inch
okay.
diameter bag. So
Yeah.
I went home and I had my Hilux at the time, and I was gonna see what I could do to put it in there, right? And then I saw that there was no way it was gonna fit, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God!" So I rigged up some little quick thing just to see what it would do, and I stuck it under the front cross member area there, and just aired it up, put a thing on it, aired up, and it lifted my whole truck right off the ground with one airbag. And when it did that, I knew I was like, "Oh my God, this is the shit right here. Like this would work to actually lift and lower the car, and it didn't take very much air pressure and a whole lot of weight." So I went back down there and asked him where to get them, and he gave me Max Springs' phone number, who is, at the time was the
Oh shit.
distributor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
so I called those guys up, and literally the owner, um, him and his sales guy Mike, they drove down, Fred and Mike, and they drove down to my house. I was working out of my house, and they just drove down, and he brought me like three different airbags to try. And
What up, brother?
what's
A lot of
that?
our a lot of our different audience
Yeah.
is chiming in saying what's up.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, he just brought me down like three airbags. He brought me like a little 25C, a 255C, and then a 224C. And then he just, asked, he said, hey, you can, see which one of these will work for you, and then let me know. And then, if you think it'll work. So the first one was a 25C, which was a small bag. And
yeah.
so I was like, I was gonna have to cut up the front of the truck to put it in there pretty bad. If you've seen a Hilux, there's a ton of work. And I was
Yeah.
selling it at the time. So I was like, I don't want to put it in this truck. Like, it's not worth it. So one of our friends, Jason Payne, who's in our truck club too. So I just told him, because he was hanging out helping me out, and I said, hey, let's take the air shocks out of your truck, put these bags in the front, see if they work. And he was like, sure, I don't care. Like he didn't care. So we're like, all right. I said, I don't know if it's going to work, but we can try it. So I just made it all work, cut it all up, put it all in there. And it was a small bag, a 2.5C. And if you've ever, you might not have ever seen those because a lot of people don't use them, but it's just like
Yeah.
a 2.55C, but it's shorter and it doesn't
Okay.
hold as much weight, but the diameter is the same. So
Okay.
anyway, so I put it in there and shit, it worked no problem. Like it was
Okay.
like, I was shocked. We didn't have no shocks on the front yet
Yeah.
because I didn't realize at the time that it was just a spring. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, this thing's like too bouncy, and then it's just a spring.
Oh,
That's all it is, dude. It's just an air spring. So then I ended up putting shocks on it, and then that weekend we took it to Rezo, and there was, that was coming up, and we took it to Rezo that weekend and had airbags on the front of it, and it was cool because laid out, and then when we had lifted up, it would lift up high, and
oh
everybody
wow.
was tripping out because they thought, with air shocks you could barely get to the top of the tire. This thing was like clearing the tire by like 3 inches, or whatever it was. And then everybody was talking shit, saying how stupid it was. Like that's stupid. Like it'll never last. Yeah, it'll pop or whatever. So it was just kind of funny. So that's kind of how it started. It was just kind of by mistake, really. And then
Wow.
it just kind of went from there. And
All the
if you know.
people that laughed, all the people that laughed at you, man.
Oh, dude,
They-
that was
Tough
funny
now.
because
yeah.
anything, everybody's like, oh, hydraulics and all that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that's fine, that's all cool. Like at the time, hydros were a thing and all that, so it was just kind of trial and error basically, and
Because there was minis that were lowriders,
oh yeah,
the lowriders, like those tons. I remember, going with
tons.
my brother, to car shows, and you
Oh
would
yeah,
see mini trucks that were on hydraulics. So I'm like, all right, cool.
lots of them, and I
But
had done lots of trucks with them at that time and cars too. So,
yeah,
um,
and then the airbag scene, like after that, like what? Continue on, man. That's just how it.
so what kind of happened with that is like literally like so you guys probably know who Courtney Hallowell is, the
Yes,
editor of Mini Truck,
yes,
and
man.
so
Rest in peace.
obviously we were like very good friends at the time,
Yeah.
and we were in a truck club, and so we were all friends, obviously, and he saw it and he was like blown away, like right away. He was like, "Dude, that's the shit right there." He's like, "We got to do a tech article in the magazine on it," and like we got to do tech article. We got to do tech article, and I'm like, "All right." Well, at the time, it was trucking, you know what I mean? Like trucking
Yeah.
magazine, and I mean
Yep.
many truck was out and stuff, but he was like, I don't know if they're gonna run it in that or whatever. And it just so happened that a guy down where he lived had a not a brand new, but brand new to him. He had a full size Chevy, an '89 Chevy truck, full size extra cab, and he had just put 17-inch center lines on it, and I had just lowered it. And so we're like, hey, let's call him up and see if he wants to do it. So basically, we could get the parts for free, and he just had to pay for all the labor, right?
Oh, okay.
So he called TCI. TCI gave us a 4 link, and they wouldn't give me the bags for free at the time. So we, bought those, but we got, spindle. Anyway, we got some stuff for free. So we just did a tech article on that truck, and I used really big bags at the time on that 260s, which are huge. And so I put those in, and so we did a tech article and did airbags front and back on that full size Chevy, and that thing drove like crazy good, and it was amazing. And I was like, dude, this is the way to go right here. This
Oh
is this
wow.
is it. And when that came out in the magazine, my phone would not stop. Everybody was asking about it, and there was a lot of people that was like, "Oh, that's stupid. Airbags are no good," and you know what I mean. And but it rode so good, and it lifted high, and you could do a lot with it. The only problem was is that at the time we didn't know. Like it took forever to air up, obviously, because we had like one stupid compressor, no air tank, no nothing. You know what I mean?
Oh shit.
Yeah, because we didn't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. So you guys
yeah,
were just like trial and error, and
yeah, yeah. But you just literally you had to hold it down until it filled it up. It took forever. So that kind of sucked. And then so I called those guys back and I'm like, man, I need some
that's
sort of way to fill this up. He's like, oh, they make these little 1/2 gallon air tanks that come with the kits. And so he gave me this air tank. We put it in and it actually lifted the back up, no problem right away, but not the front. It was too heavy. It just took forever. And then so I said, hey, can I just put a bigger air tank? He's like, well, I guess, So I went to Harbor Freight and bought a 5 gallon, the little air tanks you'd carry around, to fill up your
yeah,
tires.
yeah.
There's probably 100 mini trucks driving around with those under the bed that I did right now.
Oh,
So because at the time nobody had air tanks. Like, what were you gonna do, right?
yeah.
So I literally, just cut the handle off of it and we mounted. Once we mounted that under the truck, dude, it lifted it right up, like because you
Oh
had five
shit.
gallons of air. The problem was is with one compressor, These guys are up and down, like it burned those
Oh, you're
compressors up,
burning.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So then we decided, then it was two compressors, and you know what I mean? So then we kind of learned, and then a different pressure switch. And so it kind of evolved over that year of trying to find the right way and combination. And that's kind of what it ended up being. But, and that's kind of how it really started right there. So,
That's crazy. That
yep.
is
Dude, I bought a
wow.
pallet of those air tanks from Harbor Freight. They were like, "What do you want all these air tanks from?" And I just would get them. We'd cut the handles off, and I have so many pictures with, and it's like that's what's underneath those
Oh,
big old
that's
round air
crazy.
tanks. Oh yeah, it's crazy. So,
That's
but
badass, man. Because at that time there wasn't, no one was making stuff like that.
nobody
You know,
made an air tank.
people.
Nobody made anything. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
nothing.
wow.
So nobody made
And
step
then
notches. Nobody made bag mounts. Nobody made anything. So most of the first trucks that I did, like that full size had 4 link in the back, but a lot of people couldn't afford the 4 link, so I have to de-arc the leaf springs, put a lowering block in the back, flatten one leaf spring, is de-arc the shit out of it so it would lay on the ground, and then when you mount an airbag on that, it's kind of stiff, it doesn't ride real well, right? But
yeah.
when you did a 4 link, the thing rode bitching, so, and I always put big bags in the back of everything, even in mini trucks. And people, as they start doing it, they always put little bags in there because they're easy, but what they didn't realize is that they don't ride as good because they're smaller. They don't hold as much air, so they're stiff. I always put big bags in the back so it would ride better in the back. So
Mm,
and get more lift if you had to mount it right over the axle. So I always put the biggest bags I could in it, and just it was funny
okay.
because every time I'd see one, there were little airbags, not big airbags in the back. So,
Mm.
but if you look at all the ones I did back in the day, a lot of the pictures I posted, they all had big airbags.
Yeah, those
So
are, man,
yeah.
some of the stuff you posted, like one of them I saw a picture and it was like you said a pair of pliers and a acetylene torch and hangers. Like
Oh, dude,
like
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 literally,
like
I chopped my truck with that. I had a hacksaw, literally a hacksaw, no saws, all no, I think a jigsaw maybe, and then just like a pair of vice grips and acetylene torch and coat hanger, dude, to chop a truck. Like, like stupid. Like I didn't even know how to weld. Like, I'd
oh
never even done it before. You're not even
yeah.
supposed to use coat hanger. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
that's but it
but
worked,
it'll
right?
work. It's just it
Yeah.
was, and I ruined a roof before I figured out like, oh my god, it's too much heat. And then, luckily I had gotten a job at a body shop, and it was a super high end body shop, and that was the biggest blessing that ever happened to me because I had that truck when I got my job there, and I was just a prepper, just sanding cars, and I was so into all this stuff, like the owner, his son was the painter and he was the body man, and I just love watching them like work. Just they were just
Yeah.
collisions, but I
Getting
love
stuff
watching
done,
him
yeah.
do this. He had a car in there cut in half. He was putting back together, and I was like blown away he could do it. So I got all into it, and then when he saw that I ruined the roof on that truck, he was like, dude, like you can't do it like that. Like, and they had a MIG welder, so he let me mess with it. And I started playing with it. And then there was a wrecked car in there and had a roof. He just said, you can cut that roof skin off it and that will actually work on your truck because it has the right curves. And so I cut the roof off of that. And then he helped me like put it on there, and like I MIG welded it on. That was how I learned how to do it and to fix
Oh
that. And then I
wow.
realized, oh shit, dude, I guess this makes way more sense. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I learned how to do some stuff like that. Because for 2 years, all I did is sand cars and paint door jambs and parts, and I hated it. I wanted to do the other part of it, but what was good is I learned how to do body work extremely well, and I learned how to do it right, which was the biggest thing. So. Yep.
Yeah.
It's always good to learn
Damn.
from somebody that's good. So I got
Yeah.
lucky. Yep.
That's
So,
man, dude. That's
yep.
well, my like when I was growing up, like uh watching this, like my brothers with their static trucks and their
Hmm.
dot, like my brother had a Datsun
Yep.
720 king cab, and
Yep.
then my other brother had a Dodge a Mitsubishi D50, not a
D50.
Mighty
Yep.
Max, like an actual D50
Yeah.
on blades with hydraulics. So like I grew up around watching mini trucks when I was younger. Like, my brothers were driving them and we were going to car shows and meets and different stuff back then. And it was so cool to see, like, you would start seeing airbags truck rolled up when I
Sure.
was little. Like, and I didn't, I was like, oh, like, that's not, like, I'm just used to seeing them with hydraulics.
Sure. Yep.
So, and then as I got older and when I bought my convertible, was pretty much like the first bag. This has been like the first bag truck I've owned and I've kept for a long, long time. So this is like, I've had it and I've done I bagged the front of it myself. A friend of mine helped me. Dennis Bowers designed the back. Mike wanted to know what year you started doing airbag.
It was 1992.
Damn.
So yeah, so that was when we did that first one. So
Dude,
yeah,
I was in like second grade. Reading
yeah.
Lowrider magazine and checking out mini trucks and stuff
Dude,
and in the
we
magazine.
used to go to the Super Show with our stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
LA Super Show. Heck
yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
that's where I've seen some stuff. Some of the mini trucks when I was growing up,
Yeah.
because we would go see my cousin, and we would always he would always be like, "Hey man, come down this for the show," and we would always go when we were younger.
Yep.
But seeing them now, like looking at how mini trucks are done now, you know, from what you've done and built and put your hands on, like, do you feel that like it's getting more easier to put one together, or do you think it's still about the same?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The problem is that you get more OCD. So when you go to work on these things, like
Yeah,
I don't do it like the way I used to do it. Like I'll get in there and go, oh man, I want to do all this extra stuff that, back in the day, you didn't really do that because it's underneath, you paint it and
yeah,
drive it, now you kind of want to do things a little bit different. So it's just, I think I do more things than I used to do. And I used to do a lot as it was. So I think that part of it is, you want to do more. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think getting parts for them now is what's the problem, and you don't realize at the time how lucky you are. I always think back to these oldie guys, in their 50s, and
yeah.
they were cutting all these cars up and throwing all these weird cars together to make a cool car. Well, they had them readily available. And when we did mini trucks, same thing. Well, now it's
Now
getting
they're
harder and
scared.
harder to find, man. And
They
this
are
shit's
scared.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah, like I'm
crazy.
fortunate. I'm fortunate to own the ones that I have.
Yeah, and
Like
there's a lot
I
of the
have. Yeah.
manufacturers are not making the stuff for them like they used to.
Oh
So,
no, I remember
yeah.
I was trying to find the the
Brake springs.
the rear brake springs for mine, and also the little
The tensioner for the e-brake.
yeah, and the
Or no,
tensioner
the
for
tensioner for the brake.
yeah
Brake
for the
shoes.
for the brake shoes.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, it was headache in a handbag. So I literally had a friend who had a rear end up north, and I went and grabbed it from Tom Jenkins, and
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
yeah, and I was like, and I literally he was like, here, take the whole rear end. So I took the whole
Yeah.
rear end,
Dude,
and
like
literally
back in the
just
day, you could
used
buy
it.
drop spindles. There was a company called Superior Spindles, and he was the only one that made them for mini trucks, the only
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yep. And then, AIM came along and copied them and started making some. And,
Yeah, good old
but
lame.
yeah, but, the guy Tom at Superior, he made really nice spindles and, you know, it, made it nice to be able to lower something with spindles, you know what I mean? And to
Yeah,
do that, so so it was nice, but like now to find spindles, it's just I'm working on a Mazda right now. We got to get a set of like those, I guess they're AIM spindles or whatever. I mean, it took like
or the
2 months to
can do
get
one,
us. It's
or the,
not can
the
do.
can do.
It's actually literally, AIM or whatever it is out there,
Yeah,
whatever airbag it, whatever you want to call
yeah,
it out there.
yeah.
Um, they're the only ones that make a spindle for that Mazda, and took us like 2 months to get a spindle for that thing. Like when we ordered it, like to what
Oh
I got
wow.
is like over 2 months. It was because they only make them like to order, I guess, or something. But
Well,
anyway, it
yeah,
just
'cause
took
everybody
forever.
buys Toyotas. Everybody buys
Yeah,
Toyotas and
yeah,
Nissans, and
yeah,
not a very few people, are like a lot of people drive Mazdas and have them bagged, but like
yeah.
I guess it's not a big like a,
Demand.
a demand, or like
Well, what it
Chris
is
says,
with
a
a
big demand
Mazda,
for it. So
Mazda's a little different. You can get a Mazda to lay the frame on the ground easier than you can a Toyota. You know what I mean? And so with a
yeah, and
Mazda, a lot
clear
of people, if they
clear
have small
everything.
wheels, they'll do that. If they put bigger
Yeah,
wheels on it, though, it's gonna suck. So yeah,
yeah, because I had a set of 20s on mine and it didn't
no,
fucking not. Yeah, it wasn't
no,
a fan. I went back to I thought was lucky enough to find a set of 17s, chrome 6 lugs.
yeah,
So
it's hard to find. Yeah,
yeah,
so
so,
yeah. Plus being 6 lug, like mine, I had my hubs re-drilled on mine, so I could run 5 lug wheels and all that
okay.
stuff. Even back in the day, like there was a guy up in LA that did re-drilled hubs, and he
And
was the
that was
only
just for
guy.
the front, or for also for like when you were doing the
Front
rear?
and rear. Yeah, you pull the whole rear end apart, give him the axles, the drums.
Mhm.
He'd re-drill the rears, the fronts, everything. We did Nissans, 720s back then for hard
Damn.
bodies, and all the Mazdas. And then, when the hard bodies came out, probably did like
Okay.
freaking 20 sets from that guy. Like we'd take him up and he would do them. Yeah, he'd charge $100 a piece. It was $400. It was $100 a corner, and it's $400. And that's what it was. And he did a killer job at it. And then he ended up passing away when he got older, and then that shop closed, and nobody would even touch it. Like, period. They're like,
And
nope.
yeah, because
Yeah.
nobody does that now. Like now,
Well, they're
you
like,
like okay, you gotta.
liability, man. They didn't want to do
Yeah.
it. So I just started learning. I just did it myself after that. I just learned how to say, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but back then you don't want to do that. You've never done it. You don't want to do it. And then
Yeah.
once you start to get a little more savvy with stuff, then you can do it. You know what I mean? So with
Yeah. 'Cause-
everything I did, I trial and error. Like nobody taught me any of it. Like welding, all that I had to learn on my own. Like there was nobody to like show me how to do it. So
Oh wow.
you just have to go for it and do it and like hope that you can figure it out. So I used to get people all the time, hey, will you do
That's interesting.
suicide these doors? Well, I've never done it before. They're like, oh really? I said, yeah, I'll do it, but I've never done it before. So
We'll
but
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
then
Instead of it'll buff
usually
out. It'll work.
it's your friends' trucks or whatever, and that's how I learned a lot of stuff. So but
Yeah.
it's crazy. So yep, that's how you do it. So
For sure.
can't
What
be
up, Jacob?
scared.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But there's like, well, for me, like when I got this thing, it was just a hack job from a previous person, and it was like my friend Dennis with his OCD, he just cut the whole back off,
Yeah.
and then he's like, all right, we're just gonna put a notch here and put new metal, and there you go, and
Redo it.
yeah, and mine fits bag over axle,
Yeah.
and I got 2600s in the back,
Yeah.
and then I think I have there's slams in the front.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I run, but it's just and then my link bars are really big. How were the link bars back then that you guys were starting to use from
They were
some
all
of the
one
companies?
inch.
I mean,
Yep. They're all TCI. I started using so many 4-link kits and I would take their 4-link kits and I would say, hey, I need this 4-link kit, but because the way the first one that we did was it has the longer bottom bars and it had the short. We did triangulated 4-link, or when you did a triangulated one, or even the parallel one, the bars were only like 22 inches long. They were short because for a hot rod with coilovers, they don't need to be long. You know what I mean? But when you
Yeah,
start
yeah,
articulating suspension and the geometry changes, you need longer.
yeah.
So what I did is I'm like, man, the bars on the triangulated kit are a lot longer. So I would tell them, hey, I need both, those length bars. And they're like, well, we don't make that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what I want. So they ended up sponsoring me in quite a few jobs, you know what I mean, that we did in the magazines. So they ended up making my own kit for me. So if I called up there, I had my own part numbers. So
Damn.
yeah, at a hot rod shop, they didn't do any, it was just all hot rod stuff.
Oh wow.
And so they ended up just making my own. So I would call up and I would just tell them I want that, and that's what they'd send me. And all their
Okay.
bars at that time too had angles on them. So,
Hmm.
and that's how, because for those cars that we were buying that 4-link from, that's how it was set up. So they had some that were straight, but I couldn't use them because the bottom bars it was just too short. It didn't work good.
Oh
So by
wow.
the time I figured all that out and how I wanted it, then they just started making those for me. And every single set that I got, that's how they were. So I bought them all from them, but they were all, 1 inch, like 250 wall. And then just, that was how they were. You could buy them stainless or regular, you know what I mean?
And
So,
but
yeah.
no problems with having how the weight or anything, and they wouldn't
Dude,
bend, break, or
those cars are all built to have 400 or 500 horsepower in those hot rods. Those things, no problem.
shit.
Like
true.
all
See,
day
because
long,
when I did mine, I was just kind of like,
right?
I was like, I don't know. I was like,
I
it's
mean, there's
small.
hundreds of full sizes mini trucks running around with those bars in there still today.
Yeah.
So my old Ombre that was on the cover of the magazine,
Mm.
those bars, they're still the exact same bar. All those trucks still have all that stuff. They'll never.
So,
That's the
so
bushing
it pretty
may
much
go
didn't
bad.
matter. Right? It didn't matter with the bar size. Okay. What happened, Mike? We
About
lost
that.
Sandra.
Oh,
Nah,
there you go.
There you go.
so
All right. Just
I
technical
don't know what happened
difficulties.
there,
No.
but
Yeah, but
it's
that's still crazy because of of you having the trial and error, and then having the link bars, your own part number. Can people like, if somebody goes, hey man, I want that style, is that company still around?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's company's still there. TCI is one of the biggest manufacturers around. So, yep.
Okay.
So,
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
yep. So,
Hmm.
it's basically, I don't know what happened with this thing here, but
No, we can see it.
okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so they're still there. You can still get that stuff, but what started happening later is that I started to make bars that were the bags mounted on the bars that way. So,
Okay. Okay.
Welcome back.
They'll be back. We'll find them again.
Yep. Technical difficulty.
Technical difficulties, guys. All right.
But anyways, hi everybody.
Yeah, that's on him.
I know. There we go.
it should be
There you
back now.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, so I started to do like the bars on the 4 link, you know what I mean? And then when you do that, um, you can't do
What?
it on a 1 inch bar, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it'll just
So
tweak it
that,
and it'll just destroy that thing, you know what I mean? So you can't
yeah,
do
is
that.
that where the
But
different size
so I would do
became
like
when you would do
on the
that?
bottom, I would do 1 3/4 inch,
Okay.
250 wall on the bottom, and then run a 1 inch bar underneath it and gusset it that way. So it actually had like a truss. And then
Okay.
I would do the bag off of that. And the reason why we did that is some of the body drop trucks, in order to get them to lift high enough, so,
Base and
we could
base.
get 12 inches of lift off the back of
Oh,
that thing. So I started doing some like, and it rode 10 times better. It rode like a car. And I started doing almost, I'd say 95% of them that way back in the day. So
wow.
it just changed it, and made it all, just made it better all the way around. So
Okay.
for sure.
So, and do you have like a CAD table? If you do you work with anybody? Like, I know you probably got friends that do it, but
I
like
can't hear you on
yourself,
there. So
yeah.
You can't hear us.
No, you can't hear us.
yeah,
Can you hear
hold
us?
on a second. I can't hear you on there.
No. Technical
Shoot.
difficulties. Check, check. All right. Can you hear us?
I'm on phone.
Mike's on. Can you hear us?
Like,
Oh, no, we lost him.
technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulty, guys.
Yep, go
Yep.
ahead, munch yourself until you come back.
He'll come back. He'll find us.
All right, everybody. Well, until he gets back.
Yep.
How's
Hopefully-
everybody's
Hopefully,
New Year
everybody's
going?
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll pop up.
Just going to the. Takes a minute for his boys to come on
Okay.
YouTube.
There we go.
Yeah, something happened weird. It was like glitching. So anyway,
All right.
But our
yeah.
Kansas.
Getting back to the 4 link stuff, yeah, it was just basically started making cantilever 4 link setups just to get a better ride and more lift, so that way you could, you could lift it up high enough to get it in and out of places, up on a trailer, whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
but all in all, it was basically to get a better ride. That's
Oh,
pretty much
okay.
what it was, and to get a good amount of lift, because with the, how it is, bags over the top of the axle,
Oh, yeah.
you're only getting
You
so
don't
much
get-
lift.
Yep.
You know?
That's probably,
So-
yeah. Everyone's like, oh, you don't get that. I'm like, I'm
Right.
okay with that lift. Like,
Right.
I'm happy with the lift. I'm not,
Sure.
until I body it, then maybe might do something different.
Right.
But-
So it's nice, like, on the Mazda I have right now that I'm working on, that it gets 11 and a half inches of lift. So if you can get 11 and a half inches of lift, then you can, get it on the trailer easy, or, you can get the wheels off or whatever, you know what I mean? So it doesn't,
Yeah.
it just makes it nicer, and it rides super nice too. So
I agree with Jason.
yeah,
One
makes a huge difference.
back on bar. Yeah, Eric Jason. Rich G Chuck says,
Yep.
yeah, you're a
Yep,
little late
you're
to the
late.
party.
You're 29 minutes late, buddy.
Our friend in Canada
All
from
right on.
Overkill Customs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's just a lot of stuff that changed over the time, just experimenting, you know what I mean, doing things
Okay.
different ways, so just to make it work, so everybody had to tear their gas tanks out of their trucks, and it's a lot of work to take a gas tank out and relocate it, and it's a lot of money, and it's expensive and all this crap. So
But
that's why
people
I
still
started.
had to do it.
People still do.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just
like-
so, they would like to do a little 3 link and stuff, so that's fine too. But I just started doing bars, reverse bars, two on the bottom, forward, two back, and then that way you could eliminate that completely,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, and that works. And so there was a crap load of trucks out there that way, and so that way you don't have to worry about the gas tank or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Your bed can stay the same. You get the same ride, same everything's the same. So yep,
Okay.
yep.
See, learning something new every day.
Oh yeah, there's a million of them out there that way. My Ombre is that way. Most of them are that way. So even back in the '90s, doing them like that. So yep,
Yeah. But back
yep.
then, that was innovative. That was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and
Like
we're trying things. You know what I mean? We didn't know if it's going to work, like how good it's going to work.
what
Just
were the
you just go
reactions
drive
of
it.
people? Were the reactions of people when you guys started driving them and laying them out, and around the '90s? Was it like everyone's like, oh, okay? Was everybody always like, oh, is that on hydraulics or
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
yeah?
that's what it was. Yeah, it was like, oh, that's on hydraulics, that's on lifts, and all that. And what started to kind of change things a lot was when people started body dropping the trucks. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
because it started getting to a point where everybody wanted to be lower than the next person. Well, once the frame's on the ground, that's everybody can do that. Well, then when they start body dropping it, then I cut the pinch molding off mine. I got an extra half inch out of it. Oh, I cut the rockers in half. I got another inch. You know what I mean? So people
Damn.
start getting crazy and doing stuff, and like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah. So, but back then they didn't have big wheels. So the biggest wheel was like a 17. So, and that was big. So, think about that. It changed, and then,
Yeah.
I think we did the first mini truck body dropped with 18s on it. And that was that Mitsubishi that we did. And that was like huge to have 18s on it and stuff. Everybody's like, oh my God, 18s.
Yeah, and
So,
then
yeah,
what? 19s, I guess.
yeah.
Right?
It pretty much went straight to 20s from there. I
Yeah.
did the
Yeah.
first full size truck. We did a body drop on an OBS, and it had the first set of 20-inch Colorado Customs ever made, and we body
Nah,
dropped it on that. Yeah, it was pretty
yeah,
sick.
I
Back
remember
in the day.
getting on the internet and checking out that website a lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
they
they
had
made
some.
well.
Yeah,
It was killer because I was sponsored by them, so it was nice. All my cars had billet Colorado Customs on them, all my trucks and
nice.
everything. So I was lucky. Like I never had to buy a set of rims. I got
Oh,
lucky,
yeah.
but they were really good to me back in the day, and I was able to get really nice wheels and a lot of the trucks that I built back then were all on the covers of the magazine, so they loved it because it got their name out because it was Budnick, it was Billet
Mm-hmm.
Specialties and
Yeah,
Boyd's. That's
Mhm.
all there was.
yeah,
And they came to the game a little later, so they kind of wanted to get their name out there.
yeah.
So yeah, so I became good friends with Bill Hancock, who ran the place back then, and Courtney and all of us became, we were all like hanging out together. So yeah, so they would. I remember I was at my house. I did my ombre, just finished painting it, and I had a set of Courtney's wheels on it, and we were getting ready to go to California Truck Jamboree, and Colorado Customs had a big booth there. They had a huge semi. It was coming from Colorado, and they were making my wheels for that truck. And we were
Oh
getting. It
wow.
was Friday, and we were going to leave Friday night to go there and get the truck inside and set it all up.
Yeah.
And I live, on this just a normal street, and here comes this giant semi down my street, and it was Colorado Customs semi, and the guy literally their semi came to my house, and we unloaded the wheels right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was freaking
that's
nuts, like
badass.
this giant semi at my house, like to unload a set of wheels. And then we went and put the wheels on, and then my
Yeah.
truck was in their booth at that show, and everybody was flipping out because they'd never seen a set of that. That was the first, they custom made those wheels for my truck. Nobody had those wheels. So they started making them later, but so it was kind of cool just going to Truck Jamboree, with all the best of the best stuff there. And you had the only set of billet wheels there that nobody else had a set. It was pretty cool. So,
Yeah, yeah. That had to be something, and then
yeah.
people's reaction and just everybody going bigger and bigger, with the
Yep.
wheel. And now it's like looks like
34s, 30s.
yeah, like
Yeah. It's funny
30s.
looking now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like the micro machines, the old micro machines,
Muscle cars,
Yeah.
or yeah,
Right.
muscle
Yep.
machines.
the muscle machines. Yeah, that's what it
Yep.
reminds me of. Like the wheels. Some of them, I think, like I don't know, like because the wheels that were coming out with that you had, did they start doing the lip, or that was something later on?
So that was the thing at the time, like, the offsets, like it just depended on the truck you had. Like, you would be like, well, they just tell you, give us the offset that you want. Well, at the time we're like, what do you mean? Like, don't you just make them to fit? And they're like, well, no, like you got to tell us how you want it. So then, they would give you a recommended, But so like literally, I said, well, how's it going to sit with this? And then they told me, I said, no, I want it to sit in more. So they're like, okay, well, we'll move it a little bit. And they kind of guessed on that
Oh, wow.
Ombre like that, So that wheel actually had a lip on it at the time.
That's
You know what I mean?
okay.
Like it still had a little bit of a lip, but if you got more of a front wheel drive offset, then you had like a flat faced wheel. And then
Um,
later on, like way later on, people start doing like a bigger dish wheel and stuff like
yeah,
that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, because they didn't make them back then, that was it. You could get them in a 9-inch wide or a 10-inch wide. I think was huge. You know what I mean? So, but that was pretty much it. It was 8-inch wide wheels or 8.5s or whatever it was, and then I
Yeah,
went to a 10.5 or whatever. And that was it for
because my brother ran 15 by 10s
yeah. But in the
on
builder
his
wheels,
Mitsubishi.
they were not making it like that at all back
Yeah.
then.
Oh,
So.
wow.
Mm-mm.
Custom made
This
and
is
man.
expensive. You got to have to buy a big old billet hoop, and I mean, this shit's
Nope.
expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Nope.
but that's the way it was. I mean, a lot of people had 10-inch wide wheels back in the day with little, freaking take it to the tire store and they'd, blow some ether inside there and throw a match
Yeah.
there and blow their freaking tire up on there. You know what I mean? That's the only way you could get it on. So stretch
Yeah.
it on there.
Yeah. And now,
Yep.
like a lot of that stuff's coming back.
Sure.
Um, you've set a lot of trends. You've worked with so many people, throughout the years, you know, and did you just continue to learn more and more throughout the
Yeah,
years?
yeah, that's
You know,
all it was. Is just, it was just always trying to set the bar higher, just trying to do more. Like, by the time you go to the next show, what can we do that's different that somebody else doesn't have? And the big part of it back then was that, like the first body drop trucks and stuff, they weren't painted. They were always like, because they would be so thrashed, like they could never finish it. You know what I mean? Like they would get it driving, but it was just beat.
oh,
And then Pat Nichols came out with his that was painted, and that was like the first one that was like painted, like
yeah.
done. You know what I mean? Like that, and it wasn't around very long. Barely. I never saw it drive anywhere, but I mean, I saw it to a show all painted. You know what I mean? Um, but nobody did that back then. So when we did Tedrick article on body dropping, there was a blue Nissan we did mini truck and a body dropping it. Like literally, I body dropped that truck. I shaved it all. I painted the whole truck. I did all the interior stuff in that whole truck, and we went to Spring Splash, and that was the first fully done body drop truck that I know of back then. That was 100% with everything painted, full interior, like done, not like missing stuff. And I mean,
Yeah.
there might have
Yeah.
been another one, but I hadn't seen one at the time, so we tried to do that just to, so it was nice. You know what I mean? And it
So
wasn't just some
you guys
crappy truck.
were setting the bar like from the beginning, pretty much. Like, you guys were already setting the bar for what, like, how the builds are being built now. Like I know you probably saw it was the Mazda with the rotary, the
Yeah.
the blue one, the one that had
Yep.
the beautiful framework, and
Oh yeah. Yep.
like it's stuff like that to go, like, you
Yep.
guys started stuff going that way, and then all of a sudden now it's like, you see trucks being built like that.
No, it's normal.
Yep.
Now it's just the normal thing to see a
Right.
truck with a beautiful done frame, all the bells and whistles,
Right.
and driving.
Yeah, and what was kind of crazy back then is, I mean, there was no social media, there's no cell phones, there was no nothing like that. So when
Polaroid.
you saw stuff, it was all, in the magazine. That's where you saw everything at.
Yep.
If you wanted to see anything new, you had to buy a magazine to find
Oh
it.
yeah, I remember
So
waiting
yeah,
every month to go to the grocery store and go get a
dude, I'm telling you, like it
issue.
was a
And
big deal. Like you run down there,
yeah,
like as soon as it would come out to see what was in
yeah.
there, and yeah, so it was kind of a neat thing. And back in those days, like even whenever I first finished my ombre, I ordered it brand new from like they didn't have any in the United States yet. Like they were just bringing them over, and nobody really had seen them
Oh,
because, and I ended up getting the first one in the United States, which was crazy. And we went to Spring Splash a month later, and that truck was brand new, body drop, 4-linked, airbagged. All the interior was done. The bed was all rhino lined. It was all factory white still on 17s laid out. And I drove there. And as I drove through the gate, it turned like 1,500 miles. That's how many miles it had on it. It was like, whatever it was. I think I had it a month. And but the day I bought it, that weekend, I tore it apart, 4-linked and airbagged it and everything that weekend. It was brand new. Like nobody had ever even seen one before. So
yeah.
when I went
But
to
the,
that show,
the
everybody's like, "What the
prices of
fuck?"
the prices of the vehicles back then was way different, you know,
Dude,
like, you know,
that truck was $9,900. It was, and it was, yeah, it was, a 1996, and it was like $10,000 truck. It was like cheaper than the Mazda that I had bought years before. So, but they had geared it around being, that's what Isuzu is, just a knockoff of an S10. It's an S10 with just their front clip and the bed sides are different. That's the
yeah,
only difference. But it
yep,
was built to be a cheap truck that you could afford. And I just liked the way the front end looked like, the headlights. I liked the bed sides that were flared. I just liked that it was different, so that's why I got it. But they were cheap, like super cheap. That truck didn't have no air conditioning or nothing. It was like bare minimum. So we
just
put a
roll up.
rag top. Yeah, we put a rag top in it and four link bagged it, body dropped it, and it was like that's how it was. So
Oh,
yeah, it was crazy. So
that is crazy. That, you know,
yeah,
buy them, but it's it's crazy to think that, you know, what you've done so far is just, you know, and the stuff you're doing now, you know, with CAD coming in and people buying plasma tables,
right.
you know, kind of CNC and yeah.
Yeah.
That do you think it eliminates like a lot of the old school kind of work, or do you think that's still
I think that I don't know. I don't. I mean, I think it definitely makes it better if you want to mass produce parts or if you want to make stuff. I mean, I don't think so because I mean, back in the late '90s, well, early 2000s, I would say I was getting parts cut laser cut back then, even all
okay?
my brackets and stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean, they people are buying plasma machines. I was getting everything laser or water jet back then, which
the
is
water
way
jet.
nicer than plasma. But I think it's just if you the hardest part about doing all that is making all the templates and making it all work and design it, doing all that, and then have somebody put it in a machine. It just makes the part a little nicer. I mean, even the Mazda I'm working on right now, I was like, I didn't want to wait to get them done, and I only needed a set, so I hand cut them on my bandsaw. You know what I mean? And like hand cut them, hand sanded them, file them, the whole thing. So it took me, to make four tabs. It took me like 5 hours. You know what I mean? So to make the tabs for the four link for the rear, and it's
Mhm.
like and so it's like it takes way longer to do something like that, but yeah, it just it just takes some of the crap work out of it. So I think it's a good thing because you can make some cool stuff and you can make it look, you can totally change the way things look by having it made like that.
Like a
So
lot of one-off parts, pretty
yeah, a
much.
lot of
So,
one-off with a lot of maybe holes cut in it or angles or square, whatever,
yeah.
gussets, like any of that kind of stuff. I've done a lot of trucks with dimple dies and all that. And I used to get all my stuff made and all my plates made with all the holes in them pre-cut. And then that way I could just stick my dimple die on there and go. That way I don't have
Oh,
to hole saw every freaking dimple die. You know what I
okay.
mean? Three
Nice.
sixteenths steel and you're doing
Yeah.
that, or what? Oh my God, dude. So I would just get it all cut to size and then that way I could just do it all. But if you're making doubling plates and for strength, you can make way nicer shit. And that's a lot of that came in from, the trophy truck stuff and off-road stuff. So
Yeah.
they're pretty much the ones who came up with all that stuff and started doing most of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But
And I was
throughout the
built.
builds,
Yep.
is there any of a favorite build that you like one of your favorite build that you've done, or are they all like
No, I got quite a few that I really like. If you ever saw the Low Taco was the black truck with the purplish graphics on it, and it
oh
had
yeah,
the Antares on it, Dan Gillen's truck. Um, I had done some other stuff I've known him he literally had the first mini truck that I was like in love with mini trucks. I had a 510. So I wanted it. He had a really bitchin', old school Toyota, but later on, he bought this brand new, Tacoma, and he works at the Toyota dealer. He had it special ordered to have all the power windows, all this crap. And he literally got dropped off at his work and he drove it over there after work and it had 12 miles on it. We tore it apart and body dropped it, bagged it, we shaved it. Nobody had done one of those like that yet, and I put big bags in the front of it. I cut into the frame and put big bags in the front. Like we did a whole bunch of trick shit to that truck. Like it had plexiglass covering over the notch in the back. It just had a whole bunch of cool little trick shit done to that truck. And shaved the front corner lights. Nobody had done that yet. Just a lot of stuff that we did to that truck. It was simple, but it was just when it was done, it just the way it looked, being black like that, all clean. We painted it too. I painted the black and then Ryan Evans, that he works at Counts Customs out in Vegas. He did all the
Yeah.
graphics on it,
Oh,
and
wow.
but just that was a really fun build to do. A lot of people that are really pretty big into the mini truck stuff worked with me at the time, and they all
Oh,
worked on that truck. And um, anyway, that was a fun build to do, like really fun. Those kind of things are, trucks like that are bitching. We did that whole truck start to finish in a month and a half. Done,
oh,
painted, body drop, 4-link bag, like the whole deal, shaved, the whole everything. Month and a half nonstop. Done.
you guys
Yeah.
are just
Good.
hitting it hard.
I would come home at 4 in the morning and freaking sleep for a few hours, go back like that, working the weekends. Like that's just the way it was, because you're always trying to do something new, and yeah, so that was fun. The other one that was really fun was like Sal Marchese's full size truck. He had a Chevy truck, the yellow one that was on the cover of truck end and had the hydraulics on it and stuff. That truck, we did a lot of really crazy stuff to that. That was a fun truck too. And just they're fun when you get to go drive them all the time too, and just take them everywhere. So it makes it
Yeah.
more fun. You get to enjoy them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
we're getting there
One day.
one day. We're getting there
Time.
one day at a time.
Yeah, but that's all how this started though. Is like you got to get something affordable that you can drive every day,
Yeah. Yep.
and then you work on it. I mean, that's how it all started. I mean, it used to, everything I had, I started with my first truck was a single cab Datsun 720. That was my first truck. Then, I got a 1980 Toyota. I was kind of upgrading. Then a Mazda. You just kind of, you change, but nothing changed as far as you have to drive it every day. So you can't
Yep.
tear it apart so far to where you couldn't drive it to work or home or
Mm.
wherever, because that's the only mode of transportation you had.
Oh,
So
damn.
everything you did, you had to complete it or whatever. That's just the way it was. So
Mm.
um, yeah, that's what kind of made it fun too, I think. So you work on your shit, you go on Friday night, go cruising, hanging out with your friends on the weekends or whatever, or car shows, and um, yeah, and then maybe the following week, maybe you do something else to it. So
Yeah. That's, damn.
yeah.
So when you were coming about, did like was when you were in like you're in Negative Camber,
Yep.
did you guys just start the club like because you guys all had trucks, because that's like like, or was there already a different chapter here, a different chap? Yeah, how did it all?
So
You
what
know,
kind of happened with that is that we were all friends and we were all in different clubs. So um, the guy Boomer, he had a car. He didn't have a truck. He had a truck and sold it and had a Sentra at the time. So he had a Nissan Sentra. He was in Razzmatazz with me. I was in Razzmatazz. Sal Marchese was in Razzmatazz. Courtney, he was in his truck club that he was in, and Mike Peters was in the same, truck club with him. So all those people, everybody was like in their different truck clubs, right? And
yeah.
the whole thing about the truck club, and that's how we kind of met and hung out. Like we always would go to
Oh,
the same
okay.
places. It was always us hanging out. Like, so, we all became good friends, but we were all different truck clubs. And so what ended up happening is that, it was Courtney's idea, is that basically he's like, we should have a club that doesn't have any rules. This is stupid. You have to pay dues and rules and all this crap. And we should just be hanging out and have the best trucks. You know what I mean? And whatever. So that was kind of way it started. And that's what happened. We just all of us we just said screw it. We're gonna do our own thing. And Courtney came up with the name of the Negative Camber because your tires are
Yeah.
negative camber. Obviously, that's what it was. And so that's kind of how it started. And we just all those people would be at my house like every weekend, like working on our stuff. You know what I mean? Every weekend, because I was working on my house at the time, and it was just you just became great friends with them. And everywhere we went to every show together, went to every cruise night together. We'd drive to San Diego where he lived. They would drive up to Temecula or Escondido where I lived, and then we just that's just the way what it was, and that's kind of how we started that club. And basically, it was just we just want the coolest people with the best possible trucks, fully done. Like that was kind of the deal. You couldn't get a sticker unless it was painted and done. It had to be blah blah blah, all that stuff. If you had a primer on yours, you couldn't get a sticker until you did, until it was painted. And that's kind of how it started in the beginning. So it was, yeah, it was just that's all it
Already
was. Yeah.
already raising the bar to like, because you guys is like when I was living with D, it was
Yeah.
just seeing trucks that were hitting back to back covers.
Oh yeah. Every
Boom,
single
boom, boom.
everything.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
like
two, seeing an issue of one truck, and then you're seeing it, bam, the second,
another one. Yep.
yeah, it's like holy shit, you
Yep.
guys were just coming hard with a lot of
Right.
vehicles back in the day, like,
Yep.
and then
And that's
now
kind
it's
of how
like,
it was, is that, we would seek out people like that, and it was just whoever was always hanging out with us, or whatever. And then Courtney was the best at it because he, worked for the magazine at the time. And so he was social butterfly anyway. And he was everywhere, like, every car show all over the country, like that was his job. And, just, being such a personable guy, he just, it just worked out really good. He was really good about meeting new people and bringing them into our circle, and then if they they had to show up to shows. Like if they didn't come to the truck runs and shows, then they couldn't get in the club. They didn't just
okay,
get in. That took a long time usually. So
well,
it was, yeah. I mean, some people wait a year, some people longer. It just depends. So
yeah,
um, because we want to make sure you're going to show up and hang out, and because that's what it was more about for us. Friendships and stuff, and have cool cars.
hell
Cool
yeah,
trucks or whatever. So that's kind of how it all started. I started at right in my driveway at my house. You know what I mean? And Courtney was like, "This is what we should do," and then we were all, "Yeah, let's do it." And yeah, that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah, it's crazy. So
holy
yeah,
shit,
just
that's
drunk night
bad.
one night.
Just thinking, let's just do it,
Dude,
do it.
yeah,
No liquid
yeah,
for fun.
Yep.
that's the truth.
And
That's kind of how it all happened. So yep,
and
yeah,
and now are you guys, everyone's still friends, and I know everybody's
yep,
still together,
yep,
and a lot of people are, I'm gonna say, like, a little retired and not, building
sure,
trucks, or
yep,
life got a hold of them, and
yep.
they're doing family stuff. um uh is it something different, is it different now because we're older now, everyone's, some people are building hot rods.
Sure.
Some people or oh well, no, I have my truck, but it's sitting in the backyard or sitting
Right.
somewhere, or
I'll tell you the
building
biggest
something
difference
different.
now. The biggest difference is that it was a way of life back then. Bottom line,
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was a way of life. That was what you did. That was your everything. Revolved around that. So your girlfriends, your wives, whatever it was. Like if they weren't freaking into it, they were beat it. You're out. You know what I mean? That's pretty much how
Damn.
it was. Like it was like this is what we do. You're either in or you're not. Like,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
literally like that's just the way it was. Like we're going to hang out, we're going cruising. If you don't like this stuff, then this is not going to work for you because this is
yeah,
what we do every day, every weekend. That's pretty much what it was. So it was kind of a way of life. And then obviously, then people start having kids and getting houses and all the becoming adults and all that kind of stuff. And then yeah, you got to buy a car that your kids fit in and all that kind of stuff. And then, that just, you just, then
Right.
that stuff
what
didn't
up, Mike?
become so important anymore, like,
Yeah,
so unfortunately, that's what happens. That's just, this is the way the times work, the evolution of it. But there's still like a lot of people that, there's still, it is a way of life for them still. Like even, with D, it's still like that for
yeah,
him, you know what I
yeah.
mean? So, I mean, he'll tell you, I mean, I've known him for as long as I've known my wife, you know what I mean? Like 30 years, plus like, but,
uh,
but it was all through
that's
truck
awesome.
stuff, and he lives in Arizona. So there you go. Like, but we would see each other at the shows but for him, it's always been that way,
Oh
and,
yeah, yeah. I remember when I was living with him. What up, Travis? When I was living with him, he one day comes home and he goes, "Hey man, you got money to eat?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You got money to drink beer?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't mind sleeping on the floor?" I was like, "No, I don't mind." He's like, "All right," and we just took off to Forbidden, you know,
that's it,
and
man.
and that was when I saw the Econoline van,
Oh yeah.
one of the
Yep.
pictures you sent, yeah,
Yeah.
and a couple of people took pictures in front of it when the doors
Yeah.
were open sideways. I remember seeing that thing, and I'm just like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "This is fucking sick,"
Yeah.
a van,
Yeah. It's a
especially
65 Chevy van that is the ugliest freaking thing they ever made. And, when it was all said and done, it actually looked pretty cool, so.
Not wrong.
Mike says, sadly, so many against cruising and loitering
Yep.
stalled a
Yeah.
lot of the lifestyle. Then adulting happened, and the next gen didn't get to experience it. I miss. I I remember coming. I grew up around it, like I said earlier. Like watching my brothers with their truck. So it was like it was watching it and watching my brothers, and then it was just like I kind of just, all right, cool, I like this. This is
Yeah.
pretty cool. It's like a giant Hot Wheel.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, it was like a giant Hot Wheels. Like I played with model cars, had Hot Wheels, and it was just like, when I got my license, I remember my first vehicle was a '74 Nova.
Yeah.
That was like the first car me and my dad helped me build, and and then I got rid of it. And I bought a bunch of different trucks. Like I owned a '71 Chevy for a while. I regret getting rid of that thing.
Yeah.
See, and a lot of, like you say, like a lot of, I know a lot of the trucks that you've bought and you've sold, and do you think they're still around? Some of the ones, or
Oh, most of them are. I know for a fact. Like, I mean, I know that, my Toyota Hilux is in Arizona. Fester has
yeah,
that. He's redoing that. My Ombre, Joey, that's in our club, he bought that from the guy that I sold it to in Vegas, and he has that
oh
now.
okay,
It's all redone and looks exactly the same as it did. And you know, my Caprice that I had that was pretty trick Caprice that was all body drops and stuff went to Vegas. I think it ended up getting crashed or something after many
uh,
years, but a lot of that stuff, yeah, they're still around. A lot of those trucks that we built back in the day all went to Japan too. A lot of them
oh
got
wow,
sold and went, a lot of them.
wow.
They were buying everything. So a
Have you been
lot
able
of them.
to travel to Australia or Japan or check out the
No,
scene? No.
no, I would like to someday, but I haven't been able to. But Japan is a huge, huge scene over there. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like I interviewed a couple people from over there, Luke Shepard and
yeah,
um, Shane from Inspired Existence, and Bo, because he's in Perfect Toys, and they tell me the scenes, like their scene is crazy out there. They're
crazy.
they're on
Yeah,
a whole different level.
We're on a whole different country.
Yeah, but
yeah.
then the builds and like their stuff is
They,
engineered compared to like
dude,
okay,
they got a lot of restrictive laws over there
oh
too.
yeah,
Like it's
yep.
crazy. So
Yeah, they were.
yeah,
Bo told us that they have to have everything engineered. Shane told us that too.
yeah,
That, like you have to have it. Somebody come
inspected
look
the
at it.
whole, all kinds of
Yeah,
shit. Yeah, it's
and it's
crazy.
crazy
Yeah,
because they were all like, "Man, you guys get away with so much stuff. You guys can drive like a
yeah,
clapped out truck." Like,
yeah,
yeah, some of us
yeah.
drive death traps.
That's
You
right.
know,
It's true. Yeah,
you know,
back in the day, like the one guy that commented about, like all the laws and stuff, like,
yeah,
we used to go cruising all the time, and those cops would just live for you to bust you because you're too low or, whatever, your stereo's too loud or whatever. It sucked back in the day like that. Like it was so weird. That's like, I remember one time I got up in the morning and I was driving out of my house and the cop was sitting there just waiting for me. He knew where I lived because he'd given me so many tickets, just waiting for me, pull out of the street, pull me over. I'm like, dude, are you freaking serious? You gave me a ticket last night, like for the same thing, knowing that if there's no way to get it fixed in time, you know what I mean? It was too late,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
just to be a dick, and yeah, because then back then you just had to get them signed off, and then they start charging and then all this stuff, and
Uh,
yeah. But I had a good friend that was the motorcycle cop, and he would sign them off for us, but yeah, some of those guys, they just live for that, just to harass you,
yeah.
pretty much. Unfortunately.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah. Because like I'm like when I bought this thing, I drove it, but man, was it scary to drive in the
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, like, and then it had blocks in it when I got it before we redid it. I was like, all right, I'm like, all right, it's has leaf springs in the back. I'm like, they got a shitty, really bad notch in it, and it was just really shoddy work. And I think I drove it around the block, and I was like, nah. I was like, and then I talked to my friend Dennis, and we were just like, all right, I'll drop it off, and within me going over, we'll figure it out. He's like, no, he goes, hold on. He goes, and then I bought metal. I had to buy metal because the notch kit that I bought at the time would not line up at all. At all.
Yeah.
So that's telling you how bad that frame was.
Yeah, there you go.
Just
So we
completely
finished,
stop
we were
everything.
building a couple trucks to go, and we were getting ready to go to Forbidden Fantasy up there, and we were literally building. There's a truck that's called Last Look Toyota. There's all the crazy
Yeah.
graphics. Like, yeah.
Oh,
So he,
but no way. Yeah.
so
That's
Sean
the other
Bell's
truck.
truck.
Yeah.
So he worked for me at the time. We were finishing his truck and to get it all in primer. And then the other guy, Tom, that worked with me, he bought a '69 Chevy truck, And back then, nobody had those, full size. And like we cut the frame off, built a whole rear, mandrel bent frame, body dropped it. Nobody had any of that stuff at the time. And, had 17-inch center lines on it. Anyway, we finished that truck and it had literally no seats, no interior, no lights, no wiring in the truck, enough to drive, but no tail lights, no headlights, no seats. And we stayed all night long getting that thing done to where we could drive it up there. And it was like, I don't know, 4 a.m. and we're like, let's go. So we hop in to take off to drive up there, and we were going up the freeway, and freaking sure enough, cop flew by me because I was behind him because he had no lights. Flew by me
Yeah.
and freaking got right and pulled him over, and he was sitting on a milk crate. Him and and his friend, both of them sitting on milk crates, no seatbelts,
Oh,
no lights, no nothing, dude. Like I'm like, oh fuck, he's going to jail for sure, and I can't stop. I just had to go. And then we went up to the next off ramp and pulled off. And then like 20 minutes later, here he goes, vroom, flying freaking by us, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? So we get back on the freeway and go, and then we all pulled over, and he was laughing. I'm like, what? He'd let you go? And he's like, dude, he was like shaking his head and said, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, you have no lights. What do you? And he's like, well, and then he told them we were doing this. We're going to a truck show. And he goes, all right, I didn't see you. You didn't see me. If you get in an accident, I don't know. I never talked to you. Like, and then he let him frickin' go. He's like, I don't have all night to write this many tickets on this fucking thing, and let him
no,
freaking. I was a highway patrol. Yeah, let him go. Yep, yep, crazy. Yep. So yeah, so we've done some crazy shit. So,
driving on milk crates. Like, yeah,
dude,
we're just gonna send it and go. That's it. Let's go, guys. Like, yeah,
Bob
man.
Wilson, one of our guys in our truck club, Bob Wilson, he has a Mazda Suicide Doors one that's it's black and like maroon right now. You've probably seen it.
Yeah. I think I've seen that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Anyway, he he rented a van to go to Spring Splash, brought it to my shop, rented a van, jacked it up, pulled all the springs out, threw them over, and just dropped it freaking on the snubbers, and they all drove it to Spring Splash on with no springs in it, just boom, boom, like
Good.
all the way.
Oh,
Yep, all
oh,
the way to
let's
Spring
go.
Splash to back. Yep, yep. So.
Just a roll up low, and that's it.
Dude, like that was it. It
Oh,
was
man.
like, yeah, and then brought it back, put the springs back in it, took it back. Yep. Crazy shit.
Oh,
Yep.
man. No wonder everybody's back hurts now.
Yeah, right.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
I used
Whatever.
to hate riding on blocks. That thing's.
Right. Dude, it was like
Oh.
whatever it took, man. So it didn't matter.
Again, it
Yep.
was a lifestyle.
Yeah. You guys were
Yeah.
just. Yeah. It was
That's
a
what it
lifestyle.
was.
Yeah.
It
Still
was
is.
fun times. Yeah, it's
Still
fun
is.
times.
But,
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Good
um,
times.
are you the current? Is there other than the Mazda you're working on right now? Is that the one that was in that one picture, like the one with
Yeah.
the tannish bed? Like
Yeah. I'm doing a full build on that truck right now. So yep.
I got the same bed, head cap,
Yeah. Yeah.
like behind the screen. Got same color bed. That's why I was like, what
That's
do you do?
funny.
Yeah, because the cab's a different color and the bed just stands out. It's like I was like, oh, I got the same one.
That's funny. Yeah, he just so he got that from a guy that's I think it was the first or second owner actually. It was a cream puff clean truck, like super clean. Got it out of I think he got it in Oregon, I'm pretty sure. Washington, Oregon anyway, but it was like it was a nice truck, like it was extremely nice. And but yeah, so we're doing that up right now. So it's pretty cool, doing a whole bunch of stuff. I
Nice.
just finished all the suspension in it. So getting ready to start on some other stuff on it now. So
Do
yeah.
you stick with still the same way you've done it for years? You just still do it the same way.
And that truck, everything it's done similar, very similar.
Okay.
Maybe, just instead of like doing gusset plates in the front and bag mounts in the front, I cut everything off completely. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like just cut it all off and build new A-arm mounts. It's got all new A-arms, can do A-arms on it. Just that kind of stuff we wouldn't have done back then. I do everything is integrated into one thing. And then in the
Mike,
rear, it's pretty much,
Mike.
similar. So
Oh, okay. Mike Malloy says it's crazy to think all the days spent flipping through magazine, wishing I had something sweet. Yeah, I remember doing that.
Right.
Like that's the person I remember seeing straight
Yeah.
up for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna pop back up.
Yeah, pop back up. All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can read the
Mike,
rest
put
of
it
that
back up.
comment. Yeah.
Straight out of hell. Mini trucking now. My good buddy. Oh yeah, Charlie has straight out of hell.
Yep.
Out there in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, he
crazy.
has that out there.
Oh yeah, that
he,
one. Yeah.
he drives that. He drives that thing to work.
And that's crazy. Like, stuff like that. I remember the same thing. Picking up a magazine when I was younger, watching my brothers have it, and then one day, when I ended up getting a Ford Ranger,
Fucking Ranger.
bought a Ford Ranger with 14 by 7s, bolt on.
That's right.
No.
Right.
Yeah, I had that. I bought that off one of my cousins. It drove like shit because I couldn't figure out the problem. It had some gremlin in there that it just couldn't figure it out.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting rid of it. But that was like, I think I had that, and then I went to school. Ended up going to Wildtech after that, and then and my dad brought it up, and I was driving it during school, and everyone's like, "Oh, everyone just remembered me." I was like, "Oh, you're the dude that drives a white truck with the little wheels."
The little
I'm like,
wheels.
all right.
The
little wheels on it. I'm like, all right. So I was like, but like it's having that truck, and then it was just like, it was fun.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I'm working on whenever I can on this thing. It's like they're fun to drive, but at the same time, when you drive them, you're just like, please nobody hit me.
Right.
Please
Yeah.
nobody, take out another car, or
Oh,
like
yeah.
sideswipe you. And a lot of mini trucks have been in accidents.
Ben almost got sideswiped today.
Yeah. See, our friend Ben Kerpack almost got sideswiped. Almost.
Yep.
So it's like with driving show trucks, when you guys were driving them back then, did you guys ever have that fear, or like if an accident happened, oh shit,
Dude. Yeah, because I mean, you got all that stuff done to it, custom paint, all those things, and you're driving it every day. I mean, you get rock chips. You're worried about people running into you, like when you go park somewhere, like you got to go power park somewhere, or go park far away because people don't they don't realize. I was driving my Toyota Hilux, the one that was on the cover of the of Mini Trucking.
Yeah.
And I was driving just in traffic, not going very fast, and some lady rear-ended me in that thing. Bang! Not hard, but the whole rear was fully shaved, all custom bed. The
Yeah.
whole bed was custom. The tail light, all of it's custom. She didn't hit me hard, so we pull off, and it dented it. Cracked cracked it right there a little bit, dented a little bit, and she's like, "Oh, can I just give you a few $100? And I don't want to call my insurance." I said, "Hey, you're crazy." I go, "This is like full custom paint job,
More
all
than
this stuff."
200.
Like,
Yeah.
so she was like, "No." I said, "Nope, insurance." And so anyway, so I went and they made me go get estimates. Obviously, I couldn't write my own, so I just went to I went to the body shop that I worked at when I was a kid, and he's like,
Nice.
he's like laughing, right? So when I walked out of there, his estimate was $6,000 to fix the back, right?
Oh
And
shit.
because the paint and everything.
Oh
So
yeah.
then she had AAA, and I remember the adjuster when I sent them in, and then he's like, What the? There's no way you need to." So they made me bring it in. So I went to the AAA, and I pulled into AAA, and I
Yeah.
walk inside, and the adjuster walks back out and sees the truck. He turns around and goes, "All right, let's go back in." He didn't even look. Walked back in and wrote a check, dude. $6,500 they gave me for that. Because he saw with all
Oh.
that custom paint, he
Oh
knew that
yeah.
he was getting
Yeah.
off cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no choice
Yep.
because for one, it was
He knew
probably
it.
going to be hard to duplicate the color.
Oh, all those graphics. Oh, there
Oh yeah.
was no way, dude.
So it's
So
like,
I got a check for $6,500 that was worth more than that truck at the time.
damn.
And yeah, so then I just fixed it, and then yeah, so it was like, yep. So it was like it was kind of. I mean, it sucked, but at the same sense, I was like, fuck, I got all this money for this, and I can
It's
fix it
like,
myself. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean, so
that's
yep.
badass. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, you're not going to take it to a body there. I just had to fix it. It took me a weekend, fixed it, repainted it, and that was it. It was done. So, but she was like, "Oh, I'll give you a couple $100." Yeah, so you're
Like,
worried
no,
about shit like that? Yeah, a couple $100, you're crazy.
you're gonna
So,
be like,
but
that's when you're gonna cover dinner, and that's
dude,
it.
right?
Like,
So, but
because of the
yeah,
work.
so you're always scared about driving shit and people run into you or whatever because, and something custom like that, it's a big deal. It's like that's why a lot of people have to get them appraised now, so that way they can get them insurance for what they're worth, in case that does happen. So
Well, yeah, Yeah, I got mine literally is liability because I'm
Yeah.
just like,
And
yeah,
once you get it
because
done, dude, like,
you know,
think about it. You get hit just
yeah,
the cost of the something, like even the front
I know.
suspension, anything.
I think about
So,
it every day. I'm just like, oh man, I'm like, once I start driving, I'm like, holy shit, it's gonna suck. I'm
yeah,
like, I gotta fake like,
scary.
you
Yeah.
know,
But when you're a
but
kid, like that's what you can afford. You can afford liability or whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
you can afford that stuff, but
yeah.
you just
Like
got to
now
do
I'm
what you
just
got to
like,
do.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to start saving receipts of shit,
Dude,
you know.
right?
So it's like,
Facts. Yeah.
was it harder to get sponsorships back then when you were reaching out to these guys and be like, hey, this is what we're doing, are you interested? Did you get a
Well,
lot of no's or like was there a lot of all right, cool, we're on board?
I was lucky, and the reason why I was lucky is that I had done so many tech articles and had so many trucks getting put in magazines at the time, and being good friends with Courtney and being in my club and him working for the magazine, you know, I kind of got lucky because he had to interact with all those people all the time for doing articles, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
he was constantly, interacting with those people, getting things to do vehicles or going there to get stuff done, right? And so I was
Yeah.
able, like, that's how TCI came about. There, Steve Stillwell, who was the head of the magazine back in the day, he was good friends with those guys because he had a truck and they had built stuff for his truck, and so it kind of evolved into that. And same with Colorado Customs with the wheels, and just I just a lot of those things happen from being friends with somebody that was in the magazines, and they had access to all those big corporations, and big companies.
Mhm. Oh,
And
okay.
then even when my truck was on the cover of Auto Sound Security, like I had a little stereo in that truck, but my friend that was Courtney's friend, he worked for Auto Sound Security. He was from out there in Arizona, and worked for them. And he's like, hey, Precision Power wants to they came out with these new amps, and they were all like pastel colors, and
Yeah.
they wanted me to find a truck to put them in. I want to put them in yours because my truck had all those colors, and they had all
Nice.
the so they have the white amps with all the stuff,
Yeah.
all that on there. And so basically, I have this little tiny '76 Toyota truck. The cab is tiny, and they had those like bazooka boxes that they had, and
Oh,
they
I remember those.
yeah, so they wanted, I had to take what they were giving, right? But
Yeah.
they don't make a stereo deck, right? So guess what?
Yeah.
They were hooked up with Alpine, so I got the first 3 disc Alpine CD player ever made, like
Okay.
and so they gave me
That's
that,
badass.
right? And then I got all that, and then Mike Peters, who's in our club, he did all the stereo install, and then they shot it for the cover Auto Sound Security, and that was kind of, but all that was sponsored. I didn't pay for any of that. They even paid for the install, everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool.
paid for it all. Yep. So, and with that, he did custom door panels, custom kick panels,
Oh,
like all kinds of cool ass shit. So yeah, you
yeah.
get it. But nowadays it is, because there's social media and there's all this stuff. It is a little bit more difficult, and people have taken sponsor stuff and never follow through too. So it kind of burns a
Yeah.
lot of bridges,
Yeah, there is and a lot of
So
people don't realize that
yeah,
there was a lot of that going on for a good while in the scene. A lot of
yeah,
people, and a lot of trucks being repoed, you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was hard to see that sometimes because they're like, oh, and they're like, well,
Well, they have a
that,
budget. They have a yearly budget that they're allowed to spend, and they got to use it wisely, right? So, if they're giving people all this product and they're supposed to bring their truck to, say, SEMA or something, and they don't show up with it there, and they give them all this product, guess what? They look like it's not good.
yep,
Um, I remember, like, it was a 2000 and I think 2007 or eight. No, it's 2012. I'm sorry. Anyway, one of my buddies knew somebody who had a brand new GMC full size. I think it was a 20, what was it, 14 or 15. It was right when the GMCs came out, and he wanted to body drop it. And so anyway, so I said, yeah. So we brought it to do the body drop and stuff, and um, started to do all the suspension and stuff in it. And then I called up K&N, air filters and stuff, because I'd used them before. And I told them, hey, I'm doing this truck. I need to get an intake for this thing. But I don't want to use the factory one. I need to use a different style because what I'm doing to it. He goes, oh, what are you doing? And I told him. He's like, oh man. He's like, could you get it to SEMA? And I said, I said, well, yeah, I'm sure we could. And he's like, oh, dude, he's like, we got this prototype stuff we would like to put on there. It's like universal, right? And he goes, we'll give you all this, we'll get you all this stuff for it, right? And then he goes, I'll get you into SEMA, so so I was like, oh, okay. So it just kind of happened that way. And then he's like, hey, MHT, wants to do some wheels. So I hooked me up with the guy there. So they made the wheels for the truck. And then it ended up getting, we ended up getting all this stuff for this truck. And then literally thrashing because I had never done one of those. The first one I did, and we're like 2 nights before it's time to drive to SEMA, putting the dash and interior back in it, and
Sure.
then we get it all back together, and we have to have roll in at like 10 in the morning, and it's like 4 in the morning, and we're loading it up to go. So you have to do whatever it takes to get it there, and then take it there, and that's just, AccuAir gave me all the air suspension for it. And I knew those guys from before they even had AccuAir, by the
Yeah.
way. So a lot of people don't know that. I knew them before when they were developing that company, they came to
Oh
my
wow.
shop. But yeah, so anyway, so I had all that stuff on. So we ended up getting just people started giving us stuff to do it because they knew that I would get it done and make sure it
Mm.
was there. So when it
Oh,
showed up there and it was all, and what was kind of cool is it was bone stock truck on the outside, bumper in the back, everything. And it had a all new frame and everything that we put under it. So, it had all that. So it was all, you open the doors, it looked like just a brand new truck still. And the bed, like everything looked brand new, and it didn't have all these crazy body mods. And that's kind of why they liked it, just because it was just like a truck that
simple.
everybody could drive every day. You know what I mean? It wasn't like crazy paint that nobody could afford, and all these crazy wheels that nobody could afford. It was all stuff that people could afford. So it kind of just happened to, all fell together, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
pretty cool.
badass, man.
Yeah.
Fucking badass.
Yeah. So
Like
yeah.
it's like so many years of you doing things and everything and changing the game of what it is. Um, how do you think when it comes to like the TV shows that are out now, you know, is it something that, like it's kind of cool to see trucks being seen at a whole different platform now, compared to like in a magazine? Or
Oh
is it
yeah.
just
I mean,
okay?
yeah. I think the person that probably has probably done the best for that is probably Bill of Extensive. With his TV show showing how extensive the
Yeah,
builds are and like how far they go into them, like a hot rod would or whatever. And so I think that gives a lot of people a lot of idea like how much work can go needs it really goes into a truck to get it to lay on the ground like that and to do all the things that they do. Um, that was the first truck one that basically people could see that oh, they're doing a full size or doing this, and they can see the extent of what it really took to do that kind of work. And not that it's just some piece of shit lowered, like there's it's so much work going into it, that craftsmanship going into it, that people started to recognize like, hey, that's pretty badass, to be able to do all that to a truck like that, like how much work it really is. It's insane amount of work, so
yeah,
um so I think that's good in that sense. The bad part is that people think that it actually gets done those amount of time, like, oh yeah, that they just pulled it in on Monday and pulled it out the following Friday and the shit's done, that it just
yeah,
doesn't, that's not
yeah.
reality.
No,
So that's where the TV shows kind of screw things up. And shooting TV shows, they rush you. There's always all this stuff, and it's so many. Because they have timelines. They got to get all this stuff shot and turned in and edited and all this crap. I've done so many TV shows, and it's like it kind of takes the fun out of it. So it's I can't tell
did
you
it
how
bum
many
you
TV
out?
shows I've done.
Like,
So
did it bum you out? Did it kind of like, did it make it? Was it too cookie cutter? Like after doing so many shows, do you feel like it was, or was it? All right,
no,
they're
I
still
I
doing
think the
different things.
it was just because we were doing something different every time. It wasn't so bad like that. The problem is that sometimes they want you to make up something to do. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not doing it. Like and, sometimes they're like, oh, here, just do. No, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not doing that. Find somebody else. Somebody else over there will maybe do that, but I'm not going to do that. Like because
Mm,
to me, it's like. I get it. They have to have like a storyline. They have, they want some drama. They want characters. They want all that shit, right? Because
yeah.
that's a lot of people that don't know, they like to watch it for those reasons. They like to see when things go wrong, and all that stuff. and it's like, that's cool. There's plenty of things that are gonna go wrong naturally. We're not gonna like create it, you know. So
Yeah.
I that's the one part I didn't like about that, you know. But I always did something so different. Like it wasn't cookie cutter, you know. It was just, you know, out of everything was so drastically different that, you know, you're just trying to, you know, they say, hey, you have 8 weeks to complete this build. It's like 8 weeks. That should take 8 months, you know. So yeah, that's the part that sucks because then, you know, you don't really get to do the things you want to do that you know need to be done on things like that, you know.
Oh, okay.
So because they don't really
Oh,
care at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So yeah, they're not driving it. They just want to make sure that it looks shiny and pretty when it's done. That's it.
yeah.
That's all they care about. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that sucks. But in the same sense, it still has brought a lot of people in to look at this stuff, you know, that didn't get to see it before. So there's good and bad, you know. It's all good. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it just depends.
Is there any where can people find you, man? Like if you want to shout out, you know, like any plug any of your things that where people can
You know, I
find you.
just you know, I have you know, just I have an Instagram page, just Brian Gendro on Instagram, and I have a Gendro's Customs on Facebook, and so I'm putting together a right now just a small website to do just so I'm kind of revamping, like, you know, I had the chop shop is how I started. That's the way I was
Yeah.
all the time. And then so I'm kind of just I'm these vehicles that I'm building now are kind of some stuff for people that were back in the day there. So it's so basically I'm just going to
Catching up.
revamp that and just
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, do that kind
Nice.
of stuff. So just go back to that.
Oh
And
yeah.
I kind of just do onesie twosie stuff at my house for certain people. You know, I have a shop at my house, and I just, you know, kind of pick and choose who I'm going to do work for, just
Oh
because, you
okay.
know, I want to make sure that it's, you know, somebody who's dedicated to do a job or something, you know, that's not going to just, I'm going to be storing their vehicle forever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
but yeah, it's on my Facebook and that. And, my good friend Dave Chappelle, he had worked for me forever. Little D, he does a YouTube channel, so we're gonna do a YouTube channel. I'm gonna start doing one of those and posting some things,
okay.
like probably
Cool.
on the build of this truck and stuff that we're doing, this Mazda and stuff. So
All
that'd be
right.
pretty
Hell
cool.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then, can't wait to see. Yeah. Chop Chop West. Fuck
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
That's nice,
Yeah,
man.
you'll have to
That's
tell D
awesome.
that. He'll get a kick out of
Oh, I
that.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on the show, man.
Yeah. No worries.
Thank you for giving us some history in trucks and mini trucks, and you know,
Yeah.
and seeing where you know. Thank you for coming on, and you know, like for just being the dude that started it all, man. Like
Well, I
you
appreciate
paved
you
the
guys
way.
for keeping it going and having me on here just to kind of go over it all. And you know, I'm not as into it as I used to be with, you know, doing a lot of other stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, I've been coaching softball for 15 years, like at a high level stuff, and so it takes up so much of my time. And so the car stuff wasn't as important. So I try to squeeze more of that in now.
Okay.
You know, so
Yeah,
but
but
you know,
no,
I
that's
just
awesome,
appreciate
man.
you guys keeping that shit going because it's cool that you guys are still doing that because
Yeah.
it's definitely a good scene for, you know,
Oh
it's
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
a good scene.
I'm still got the same truck that I bought and haven't got rid of it,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then
It's good to see
I
that.
like, you know, I just ended up buying Mazdas. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
have you been to Mini Truck Nats Nationals?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're
You need to go, dude. Like literally that's
eh,
kind of what kind of got me kind of going again is, you know, my buddies Joey and
yeah,
and Bob, they said, man, we're going to Mini. You should go with us. You should go with us. It's the best show. It's like the truck runs back in the days. They let you cruise the road, like all this. So I said, all right. So I ended up going with them out there, and it kind of just made me like just, you know, kind of get the fire going again. Like
nice.
just to see all those people still doing stuff like that
Oh
was
yeah.
awesome to see. Like it was really cool. I was glad to see all that. And I had a great time, and then I went again this year and had another amazing time. So I can't wait to go back.
We're trying to get there. Like, you know, we're hoping we can do, you know, we can go out there one of these times and then, you know,
It's worth it.
hopefully do a live episode from out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's
So
worth it, man. It's the best show that I've been to since back in the truck run days back in the day.
nice.
So yeah, so it's
Okay.
definitely
That's what
worth it.
everybody's been telling us.
It's worth it.
Everybody,
Like you gotta go. Yeah, it's
oh
worth
yeah.
it for sure. Yeah. So
Definitely.
absolutely.
Um, once again, man, thank you for coming on and thank you for taking time out of your night, you know, to join us. And
Appreciate it.
and
Hey, thank you guys. I
now
appreciate
you're
you
the
having
man.
me on and
Yeah.
if you ever have questions or whatever, just let me know. I'm
Definitely.
always
Yeah.
there for that stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'll
So,
definitely ask you a couple questions about some Mazdas,
yep.
down the road, and some little tricks here and there. 'Cause-
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. I'm getting a lot of people ask me about convertible tops and stuff, so I might have to do one so to show them how to
and
do it. So
I bought this thing already cut.
yeah.
Mine, yeah, it already came
That's
cut like
awesome.
that. Yeah, so like when I bought it off
Yep.
the person, it was already done. So I was like,
Yep.
all right, cool. It was just really bad shape.
Yep.
So thank you
Sometimes
again for
it's
coming
all
on,
good.
man.
Thank you guys.
And
Appreciate it.
hopefully, we will have you back on in a later date and do a little
Anytime.
update. And
Yep.
maybe we'll be in your neck of the woods and we'll stop
Yeah.
by and check out Casa de Genro.
That's right, man. Anytime,
All right.
guys. All
Hell
right.
yeah.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you for
guys. Thank you
coming
very
on.
much. All right.
And on behalf of everybody at Late Frame, we want to thank Brian Gendro for coming on and get out there, build something, and if not, fix whatever you got sitting in
That's
your
right.
carport or garage.
That's right.
So, oh, yeah.
Yep.
Have a good
All right,
night,
man.
man.
Have a good night.
All right, you guys
Just,
take care. All right.
stick around real quick, Gendro, when we get off
Okay.
the air.
All right.